Hi, I'm Duncan Moss, and welcome to my latest video blog. Today I'll be looking at the 1970s compilation album, The Best of George Harrison. This was released in early 1977 and was meant to be a celebration of his solo work on the Apple label just after the Beatles split up in 1970 to 1975. And I understand that George submitted a track listing to EMI and Capitol Records with the tracks he felt should be on the album, but he was overruled. And what they, Capitol and EMI, decided to do was to have one side of the album as some of his best Beatle compositions, and side two representing his solo uh, career. But the rotten thing with that was that it implied that George's solo career was not up to much. And even Ringo had been able to release an album of solo material. George didn't release it in 1975 for reasons. Well, John Lennon had Shaved Fish out for Christmas 75, and Ringo had Blast from Your Past out at the same time. And George was still Extra Texture was still selling quite well, and that was the one that he hadn't released the second single yet. So his compilation album would be out in either 76 or 77, and the album came out only about 1.5 months after George's first album on his new Warner deal with Warner Brothers, who were going to distribute his own record label, Dark Horse. And so they were perilously close to each other. And also, there's an album that George was not particularly happy with. The cover for The Best of George Harrison is this quite nice picture of George outside. His love for cars, black and white, but I think it's colour on the actual album. This is from Mike Carr and Tony Tyler's excellent book, Beatles, an Illustrated Record, which I'll be talking about sometime in the not too distant future. Well, let's have a look at the tracks listing that EMI came up with. Side one is the Beatles. It kicks off with Something, one of George's greatest compositions. It's then followed by If I Needed Someone, and I don't think I'm going to bore you with saying what albums they all come from. You should probably know. Followed number 3, Here Comes the Sun. Number 4, we've got Taxman. And then at number 5, Think for Yourself. And that's followed by For You Blue. And at number 7, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And that's side 1, covering his Beatle period. And side 2, we've only got 6 tracks here, not even 7. We've got My Sweet Lord, and followed by Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, and then followed by You, which lovely song. And then at number 4, we've got Bangladesh. And then at number 5, Dark Horse, from the album of the same name. And at number 6, What Is Life? Now, if you're a UK record buyer, when you bought My Sweet Lord, you would have had What Is Life on the B-side. Most other countries had Isn't It a Pity? And What Is Life was a follow-up single. But that's only 6 songs. Not really very satisfactory at all. Unless you're someone who doesn't know anything about George Harrison, hasn't got any of the tracks. But most record collectors would have had most of the Beatles stuff already. So you're expected to buy tracks, a lot of tracks you've already got. And The album sold quite well, surprisingly well, in fact. But it wasn't the album that George wanted, and I think I'm not sure why George didn't kick up more of a fuss. Maybe at the time we had the My Sweet Lord, uh, He's So Fine uh, court case was imminent, and that might have been sucking out a lot of energy from George. And um, I've got an alternative track listing that I've come up with. I wonder what people will think of it. I'm going to start side one with My Sweet Lord, and the second track is also from the same album, All Things Must Pass, Behind That Locked Door. Not a single, but a superb track. And that was followed by Bangladesh, the charity single that was a pretty big hit pretty much all around the world. And then at number 4, Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth. And then number 5, a second track from the Living in Material World album, Don't Let Me Wait Too Long, which was going to be a single, strongly considered a single, but in the end, it didn't happen. At number 6, we've got Dark Horse from the album of the same name, followed by You, the first single from Extra Texture. And that's side 1. Kicking off on side 2, we've got What Is Life, again from All Things Must Pass. And then number 2, All Things Must Pass, the title track. Fantastic. You can't leave that off anything. It's just marvellous. Number 3, we've got the title track from Living in the Material World, and that's followed by another track from Dark Horse. That's Far East Man, a track that he wrote for Ravi Shankar, about Ravi Shankar, his friend. And I think it's also dedicated to the people of Bangladesh. You get that feeling. At number 5, we've got another track from Extra Texture, This Guitar Can't Keep From Crying, which was the follow-up single in early 1976. I think the last single to be issued on Apple Records. And sadly, it didn't chart. People think, oh, it sounds a bit like... it echoes my guitar gently weeps, but it's a sort of follow up to that. But it's a great song in its own right. And then at number 6, another song from Extra Texture, Can't Stop Thinking About You, which I think is just lovely. And it ends with track number 7 on side 2, Ding Dong. It was a Christmas single in many countries around the world. Got to number 38 in the UK, and it's quite catchy, but a bit repetitive. But it's basically ushering out the old year and bringing, welcoming the new year. And I put it right at the end of side 2 because reflecting that, it's sort of ushering out George's solo Apple career and welcoming in George's Dark Horse, distributed by Warner Brothers, career, which was a pretty happy time for him. Now, I couldn't end this blog without having a quick look at George's first Dark Horse album, which was called 33 and a Third, and it was released in, I think, the 19th of November 1976, about 1.5 months before the Best of George Harrison came out. And I don't think George was happy with the two albums being out so near each other. This is a beautiful album. It's helped by the fact that it's got somebody else helping him with production. His previous 3 albums he'd produced himself, and his first album, All Things Must Pass, of course, was produced by him and Phil Spector. But he's back with a producer, not Phil Spector, but I think it's Tom Scott, who I think did a fantastic job. And they both do a fantastic job together. And the first track is Woman Don't You Cry For Me. and that was goes back to the time of All Things Must Pass. It's one of the demos that didn't get onto the finished album, and he then follow. It's then followed by track two, Dear One, which is a Hare Krishna love song. It's very nice. It's very sincere, and it's extremely well played. Then it's followed by track number three, Beautiful Girl, which is again like the first track from Sessions of All Things Must Pass. So it's about 5.5 years old, or maybe even older. We then have track four, which is the first single on All Round the World. It's this song, and it's about the My Sweet Lord, He's So Fine court case. The music publishers of He's So Fine said that it was the same tune as My Sweet Lord, and it went to court. And I personally can enjoy the two tracks without thinking that one is a rip-off of the other, but it did cause George a lot of heartache. Eventually, it worked out relatively well because royalties were divided between the two music publishers for both songs. That was, I think, in the late 80s or early 90s. It took a long while to sort out. But we've then got the song didn't chart in the UK, but it was a sizable hit in the States, and the video is hilarious. It's a court case with a lot of George's friends, and George is handcuffed to I can't know who played the American policeman, but it's quite a funny, tongue-in-cheek, almost Monty Python type video, and well worth having a look at. It's on various platforms, I think. We then got to end side one, a song called See Yourself, which is one of George's sort of reflection songs. It's easier to kill a fly than it is to turn it loose. It's easier to drag your feet than it is to be a man. It's sort of reflecting. It's nicely performed and nicely produced. We then go on to side two, if you're vinyl, with the song "It's What You Value," and this is a terrific song about George's love for cars. It was a single in the UK. I don't think it was a single anywhere else. Maybe wrong on that one, but it's a super track. It should have really been a top 10 hit. It's very nicely played. It's catchy. But it seems that certainly in the UK, George he was now an album artist rather than a singles artist. Track two, we've got what will be the second single in the UK. It's True Love, which is from the written by Cole Porter, and it's from a famous musical that I can't remember, but it's sung, I think, by Bing Crosby and Grace Kelly in the film. Someone will be able to tell me what it was. We've then got Pure Smokey, a song. It's not about drugs, as you might think, perhaps. No, it's about a tribute to Smokey Robinson, who was an artist who George very greatly admired. And Smokey Robinson was very moved by this gesture. It's a lovely song. We've then got Crackerbox Palace, which was a single in the States and did moderately well. I think it's about childhood. He did a video with him dressed up in a schoolboy's uniform. We've then got, to close the album, one of the most lovely songs that George has ever written, called Learning How to Love You. Beautiful song. I'm amazed that nobody's had a hit with it, because it was the B-side in the UK of the first single, this song, but it's good enough to be its own A-side in its own right. So we had a good, um, a very good start to George's Dark Horse career, and um, yeah, so we've got a very encouraging album around that time, and an album that's not so encouraging. But whatever the way you look at it, there's great music on both records, and there's maybe some people who'd find that Best of George Harrison with Half the Beatles just the right thing for them. But George, you wrote some fantastic music. And George's next album, which is called George Harrison, after 33 and a Third, would be even better. So, George Harrison, we love you, and we love your music, and your music will endure forever. So, God bless George Harrison.